Hello, everyone. I'm delighted to say today we're joined by a very special guest, Manchester City ambassador and club legend Joleon Lescott, to talk all things about Man City's US preseason tour, how City are looking for the season, and much more. Joleon, thanks so much for your time. And how are you doing, mate? You've had a pretty good weekend from all accounts. If we look at social media, hanging out with Tom Cruise and others at the Grand Prix, that looked amazing.
Life's treating me well at the moment, to be fair. I had a good weekend, some world stars, obviously, and some old teammates and just friends. So, yeah, as I said, I can't complain with what life's throwing up at the moment.
Yeah, it looked very good. We're very jealous, mate. So, yeah, Tom Cruise, maybe a Man City fan, right, in the future, for sure. So, talking about Man City, what do you think of City's squad at the moment? Obviously, been quite busy in the transfer market this summer so far. And do you think they're in a good shape to defend that Premier League title they won so dramatically on the final day of last season?
Yeah, I think the squad and the club are in great shape. Last the reigning champions, so they were going to be the team to beat regardless. And then the additions they've added, age-wise, value-wise, it's an exciting time for Man City, and it just gets better and better every year. Again, with one of the most exciting players of his generation in Haaland, and one of the Premier League's brightest talent in Calvin Phillips. So if they continue to improve the squad, it only bodes well for the future.
It's quite scary for the rest of the Premier League, I think, with those additions, but especially Erling Haaland. I mean, he's the man everyone's talking about. And as a former England centre-back and a Premier League winning centre-back, I mean, what do you think when you look at Haaland and his game? Because I know you worked very closely with individual players, being the loans manager at City, and you're involved in the England under-21 setup as an assistant coach now. I mean, when you look at young players, how good is Haaland, and how do you think he'll really adapt to the Premier League? Because it's scary to think about the number of goals he could score next season and beyond.
Yeah, no, in terms of his talent, he looks exceptional. I don't, and this is going to be some high praise or high pressure, which I think he'll cope with anyway. But I don't see any weaknesses to his game. I think he enjoys the physical battle, which helps, especially when coming to the Premier League. We know he can perform in the Champions League, so there shouldn't be as big a worry there. And it's strange, sounds strange to say that he probably adapts to the Champions League faster because he's used to that competition and what that means to the clubs he's played for. But in regards to the Premier League, he seems more than capable. I was very impressed when the Dortmund faced Man City a couple of seasons ago, and he held his own physically, which was pretty impressive.
And Joleon, I mentioned it there. You spent a lot of time and in the role with England individually looking at players, and as a great centre back in your playing days, what would you try and do to stop him? What would be things that you said he doesn't have many weaknesses, but is there anything that you can give hope for Premier League centre backs in the season to come?
I think when you're talking about top players and top performers, you try and nullify their supply because they are great for a reason. They are able to produce moments out of nothing. So players like that get frustrated when they don't get opportunities. So if you can nullify them opportunities, that adds to frustration, and it tends to lead to a better outcome for the defenders. But with the players that City have at their disposal, it's going to be hard to nullify that supply line. But in regards to stopping him, like I said, I don't know if there's one way, because I think he enjoys it. I think recently in the summer when he was playing Sweden, and when centre halves was giving him a bit of stick, and he rose to that. He embraces that side of the game. So I'm looking forward to that, to be honest. I want to see someone with a belief in his own ability, that he's able to expose weaknesses in defenders and enjoy applying pressure to himself, even before the occasions. He kind of reminds me of Zlatan in that aspect. Of he knows what he's capable of, and he believes he'll execute.
Looking as City, we get our first chance to see them on their U.S. tour, playing with Club America in Houston, and then of course at iconic Lambeau Field versus Bayern. How excited are you to kind of see the vibe around the team and around the supporters? And when it comes to preseason, as someone who's been in those shoes, what should we be looking for as fans? Like when we're seeing a club for the first time, what should we identify?
It'll probably be a slower tempo than you would expect due to the stage of the season. It's going to be ridiculously hot, I'm guessing. So in terms of that will impact the outcome of the tempo. But there'll be energy from the crowd, and that will galvanize the players. And that's the part, and that's the role of the fans, is to do that, and likewise for the players. So it'll be exciting. Even though it's a friendly, these teams do not play to not win. So, which is what we want to see. I recognise the skill involved, but fans want to be entertained, and I'm sure they will be by both teams.
Joleon, athletes in the American leagues notoriously just really hate preseason. It's a long, slow grind, and you have to get through it. It's a little bit different in the football world, especially for European teams able to come over to the U.S. Is there a factor of enjoyment that you get out of that experience, or is it simply the fact that it's training multiple times a day, it's hard work, it's getting ready for the season, and it really is checked in for business for the season?
No, it is that. It is all that what you've just said. But I think clubs have realised how do we make it more enjoyable, and going to the States is definitely that. I remember going there with City when we won our first title in, it would have been 2011, and that was probably the biggest factor and contributed to us having success. Like the way you can relax, you have to focus obviously in the training, but after that it's kind of like there's downtime and there's things to do. So yeah, players respect what it is and what it means to the season in terms of preparation. But they also, I think the clubs are starting to realise there's things for the players to do as well.
Joleon, do you have any funny stories or special memories from those preseason trips you mentioned? Because you went on some really good ones. I mean, East Coast in 2010, West Coast in 2011. You had that postseason tour as well, if I remember rightly, playing against Chelsea in St. Louis.
Probably the postseason tour. Yeah, because I wouldn't let what happens a preseason out, because you'd probably be surprised. But no, listen, the whole time, and at the end of the post one was, I think I don't even know what stage of my career that was. That was my last season. But in regards to what it was, I think we were showcasing New York City and playing at the Yankee Stadium against Chelsea. And the funny story, or the contrast in the preparations was funny, because we got there as Man City, and we was obviously end of the season. We were told we could have some downtime pretty much the whole time. We had a couple of training sessions where Chelsea, obviously I know the Chelsea lads at the time, they were on a strict regime, training and all that stuff, taking it dead serious. And we just bopped them. We just beat them twice, I think. So it was like the contrast in preparation for that end of season was so different. But again, the fans were entertained because I think they were high scoring games and stuff. But yeah, that was probably the only time I realised at the end of the season, do you need to train as much?
Yeah, well, maybe that's a good lesson going forward, right? I mean, just be a bit more relaxed, and then the great results like that might come out. But Nick, I know you have a question for Joleon in terms of the growth of football and soccer in the US, right?
Yeah, I mean, Joleon, we've seen I don't even know how to describe the growth of soccer in the United States. I mean, you go back to us hosting a World Cup, we didn't even have a top flight league in the mid 90s. And obviously 30 years later, compared to what is established in England and around the world, and even in your playing days, there's been significant growth since then. To see the players who are coming over here now, especially in the Bundesliga, but now obviously to the Premier League, as you consider what's different, how do you view the U.S. now versus then when it comes to the men's soccer program?
No, I think that there's a lot of the gaps got smaller in terms of the level. I think obviously not being the nation's favourite sport in America has impacted their progression. That would be a natural consensus. But in regards to the progression, I remember going to Houston with my previous club, one of my previous clubs, in 2006. And a friend of mine was playing there, and it was like what you call bleachers. It wasn't a stadium; it was like an AstroTurf. And I was like, the games couldn't finish in a draw, so there was like a penalty shootout, which was like ice hockey style, where you kind of ran from the edge of the D, and you had a certain amount of time to score. And I was like, what's going on? Like, it was just surprising to me. But in regards to the progression, it's obviously so different now. They can track some of the world's best talent. Obviously, they're producing world-class talent of their own. So I think that all that has an impact, and I speak about it often with friends. I think if America choose to focus on it, then the rest of the world would be in trouble, because they don't tend to do things by half in majority of the time. So if they really wanted to go all in, and I think that will be a case of for the next World Cup, I think there'll be a different in transition because the focus will be on the national team a bit more.
Yeah, obviously this is a World Cup year as well. It's going to be a bit different having it in the winter, play half of the season, take a break, go to the tournament. From an England perspective, 2 tournaments ago, semifinals of the World Cup, 1 tournament ago, final of the Euros. Is this going to be the one, do you think, in your mind, that they continue that progression, they get over that hump, and they lift a major trophy this summer? And do you think it'll be another easy group with the US in it?
Listen, are England one of the favourites? Yes. And should they be? Yes. So the belief is there that we can win. And I've said it numerous times. I think it's a genuine belief now. I don't think it's a hope. Even when I was part of the national team, I think we hope to win competitions. Yes, in the group we may have believed, but I think the rest of the world also believe England are a force now. I think so that helps. In regards to the group, I think England are favourites. I think if you're going into a competition and you are believe you can win or one of the favourites for the competition, you should top the group. So I'm sure that pressure will be applied on themselves. The fact that it's in the winter, I also believe that helps. The Premier League is very physically demanding and mentally as well. But the fact that it's in the winter, I think that helps. Whether it is enough to get the job done, who knows? No one has a divine right to win the World Cup, and England's preparation, I'm sure other teams will be going there as prepared. And we don't know what stage or what players are going to be like, who's even going to be fit. Hopefully Gareth has a full strength team to pick from, but you just don't know at that stage of the season.
Focusing on the US men's national team, how do you think they'll do against England? Because most people think England will be the clear favourites to beat them, but maybe 2 of the lads on the screen here may think otherwise, Joleon.
Yeah, no, I was saying that England should and will be favourites into that game. Listen, and that's no disrespect to the US, but I think it was today, recently seen that Tyler Adams, who I'm a huge fan of, potentially going to Leeds, and that can only bode well for the national team. They have some exciting talent. I believe whether it's a stronger team, I don't know, but it's some of the most exciting talent collectively they've produced in recent years. So I'm sure they're confident to get through the groups, but it says enough there when, in the greatest respect to the US, their hope is to get through the group stage where England is to win the competition. So in regards to the outcome of that game, on paper, yes, England should win.
Joleon, you say you're a big fan of Tyler Adams. I'm curious, what do you see in his game that stands out to you? What do you think will translate well to the Premier League as well?
I think intelligence. I remember seeing him years ago when he was playing in New York, and I was speaking to people about him then and saying he plays with a maturity and an understanding that you don't see at a young age, regardless of English, American, whatever nationality. He plays with an understanding that he must be natural. He must grasp the game very quickly and learn efficiently. So he's someone that's progressively got better. Obviously came to Europe and produced. Yes, it was within the same system as in the Rebels, but he's obviously improved and developed, and I'm excited to see him. Yeah, again, I know Eric Palmer-Brown. I've worked with him whilst he was on loan at Man City, and yeah, again, them 2 players, having spoken to them, I know how passionate they are about the game. So for them, hopefully they are in the squad and can add value to the national team, just not against England.
There you go. I could vouch for that as well, Joleon, to be fair, as an Englishman. So I'm really intrigued. We'll have to get you back on in the future to talk about all this US men's national team knowledge from these players as well ahead of the World Cup. But all I can say is thank you so much for your time today joining us. Have a great time on the US tour in Houston and up in Green Bay. And going to see some more photos on social media of you of a cheesehead, right? And all that stuff up there.
Yeah. I think we're meeting some other more exciting profiles and other sports. So yeah, I'm all in.
Amazing. Have a great time, mate, and thanks so much again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch highlights all season long, and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend at 7 a.m. Eastern. And for even more content, head over to Peacock, where we've got live games, original series, and a dedicated round-the-clock Premier League channel featuring studio shows, classic matches, and much more.